Greetings, survivors. This is the Neuroshima Hex Gamer. Today, we will break down the army of Moloch. Moloch is a half-mechanical, half-electronic entity which spreads across an area as large as several states. It was Moloch that brought about the fall of humankind in 2020. The exact date that Moloch became conscious was September 5th, 2020. Now, after 30 years have passed, it's even bigger and more powerful. Hordes of machines search through the barren lands in pursuit of what's left of humans to destroy them. All orders are transmitted from within Moloch's body of several interconnected artificial brains that scheme on the latest plans of the ultimate conquest. Despite its military and technological advantages, Moloch's forces lack the natural intelligence and flexibility of humans. Moloch comes with the base game, or obviously in the app. Let's go ahead and break down the units. The Moloch HQ attacks at initiative 0, as all HQs do, and it has a melee attack in every direction. For its special ability, all friendly adjacent units gain +1 strength in ranged combat. Now, a general rule of thumb with the Moloch is a good strategy is to turtle them, which to turtle means to place it as build up layers upon layers of units to protect the HQ so the HQ can't even be touched. Sometimes that goes better than expected and other times not. Okay, one of the heaviest units that Moloch has, not in terms of offensive ability but defensive ability, is the blocker. It does not attack at all, but it has a toughness of 3, which is shown by the gold shield. Usually a unit takes 1 hit to be taken out, so this unit takes 3 hits, 1 for the unit itself and then 1 for each of the shields. And then it has an armor ability as shown by the black semicircle at the top, which the armor decreases the strength of ranged enemy attacks by 1. So if you have a ranged unit, an enemy that's pointed at you, you can stick the blocker in front and that armor will absorb that hit before the armor even penetrates to affect the toughness or health of the unit. The Cyborg attacks at initiative 3 in one direction, fairly straightforward. The Gauss Cannon is a very useful machine. It attacks at initiative 1 and it does have toughness, but because it is a Gauss Cannon, it can hit multiple enemies at the same time, and all those enemy units have to be in one line based on where the Gauss Cannon is pointed. It does also affect the HQ of an enemy. The disadvantage is that there are no bonuses that increase firepower, so if he's next to the Moloch HQ, that boost in ranged attacks does not affect the Gauss Cannon. The Juggernaut, this is by far the most powerful single unit in the Moloch army. It attacks at initiative 1. It has 2 melee attacks out one direction. It has 1 ranged attack, and it has 3 sides covered in armor. It also has a toughness. Only challenge with him is how to orient him so that he's pointing the correct direction. The Clown has a very unique special ability. It attacks at initiative 2 in 2 melee directions, has a toughness, but also has the ability to, instead of performing an attack, it may call an airstrike on itself, which we'll talk about in a minute. We can treat it as a regular airstrike, except it can also be executed at the edge of the board. After the airstrike, the Clown is discarded, and that it cannot be repaired by a medic in any way. Essentially, he kind of becomes a bomb. He either can attack or become a bomb. So we'll skip ahead to the Airstrike, which is a very it is a unique instant action tile that Moloch has. The Airstrike inflicts 1 wound on a target hex and all spaces that are adjacent to it. And it cannot attack on edge hexes, and it does not affect HQs. Now again with the Clown, it can attack on an edge. You can see the pattern here. That would be assuming that the Clown blows up in, say, a middle location. It, plus every hex adjacent to it, takes a hit. Except for HQs. And it only does the damage to enemy units instead of friendly. The Hunter Killer attacks at initiative 3, and it hits in 4 directions, which is a very good, useful unit. There's 2 of them. It's very good at clearing some pathways. The Protector fires in 3 directions at initiative 1 and has a toughness. Get him next to your HQ and it can definitely clear out some enemies, but it does take a while to fire up. The Armored Hunter attacks in all 6 directions, has armor on 2 faces. The Armored Guard has armor again, attacks at initiative 2, and it can do a ranged attack in 2 directions. Again, any ranged unit, generally speaking, if it's by the HQ, that's an ideal place for it because it gets that boost. The Ripper does a 2 melee attacks in 1 direction at initiative 2. The Net Fighter disables adjacent opponents on those 2 fronts, 2 sides. This is a very good unit to get on to help protect your HQ from enemies who want to attack. It's also a great way to hold an HQ in place, which is very valuable because, and we'll get to it, Moloch only has 1 move tile, which means once it has one of these heavy guns pointed in a direction, that machinery is staying where it is. So if the Net Fighter can hold an HQ while the rest of your units punch it, that's a great way to go. The Stormtrooper fires at initiative 2 and at 1 in a ranged attack, and it has a toughness. The Guard attacks in 2 directions at initiative 2 and does a ranged attack. Most of these units in Moloch are very straightforward. This is another army that I recommend to new players because with some simple instruction on protect your HQ by building armies around the HQ and by putting your HQ in a corner, most of the rest of it takes care of itself. The Brain on those 3 sides where the rectangles are, connected units get +1 strength in ranged attack and also +1 strength in melee combat. So if you have a unit, say the Juggernaut, that has both ranged and melee attack, this boosts both of those. If they only have 1 form of attack, it boosts that type of attack. Very good unit to have, or a good module. The Officer boosts the strength and ranged attack to connected units. The Scout gives connected units +1 initiative, much like in Borgo, except Moloch only has 1 Scout instead of 2. The Medic. A connected unit must ignore all wounds from 1 attack, and then the Medic is discarded. It's a great way to protect some of your heavier units or units that are next to the enemy HQ, so you can keep them attacking. The Mother module means that the connected unit can perform an additional action in the initiative phase that follows its last initiative phase. So if a unit attacks at initiative 2 and is connected to the mother module, it can also then be attack at initiative 1. Very good for a strong unit, which most of Moloch's units are. There are 4 battles tiles. With Moloch, you want to be sure you want to attack and want to do a battle. If it is advantageous for you at the time, then do it. If it is a questionable, you may want to discard the battle and use a different tile. Now, as I mentioned before, Moloch only has 1 move tile, which allows a unit to move to an adjacent unoccupied hex and or turn it in any direction. Because it only has 1, you really have to make sure that you've got your machines pointed where you want. However, you also have pushback, which pushes enemy units away from one of your units or modules. It's very good to help clear out some space, to help push enemies away from your HQ, and also to push an enemy out of the way so you can get one of your units in an advantageous position. And again, there is the Airstrike instant action tile, which is different from the Clown, in that it inflicts the 1 wound on a target hex and all spaces adjacent to it. If they're enemies, not friendly units, it cannot attack an edge hex, and it does not affect HQs. So there's Moloch, a very good starter army. They're very tough for the most part, but they don't have much mobility, which is definitely a weakness for them. This is the Neuroshima Hex Gamer telling you to stay tactical and stay safe. Signing off.